Good morning, gorgeous souls, or whatever time it is, wherever you are. Today we're going to talk about what the heck does everything is energy actually mean? Is this just some woo-woo concept? Well, actually, everything is energy comes from, I don't know where the actual saying comes from, whatever, but there was an experiment called the double slit experiment. And in the double slit experiment, I think they started with a photon, a particle of light, and they sent it through two slits. And they found that when it wasn't being observed, this particle that they thought was, like a solid thing, acted like a wave. And they could tell because there was a wave interference pattern on the back of the screen rather than just one pinpoint. They then replicated this experiment. They found that when they introduced an observer, it acted like a particle and it just went through one of the slits. They found that light was a wave, and everyone knows this today. But the thing that a lot of people don't know is they kept replicating this experiment. Now, at this point in time, the largest thing that they have done this with, they've done it with atoms, and now they've done it with molecules, up to 2,000 atoms, and they have found that even molecules, solid things, go through this double slit experiment. If they're being observed, they go through as matter. If they're not being observed, they go through as waves, as energy. That is crazy and mind-blowing, and this is where spirituality and science combine. It's quantum physics, and it is my favorite thing to learn about, to talk about, to think about. I get tingles all over when I think about this because it brings together everything I know in my heart to be true and everything that my mind wants to know and learn about how things work. Isn't that crazy? They bring an observer in. So when basically the idea, the thought that they can take from this is that everything is actually energy, and it's when the energy is observed that it collapses the wave function, that's what it's called, collapses the wave function into solid matter. If you've seen an old documentary called What the Bleep Do We Know, you might have seen the scene with the basketball. I first watched that about 10 years ago, a bit less than 10 years ago, 9.5 years ago, I think. And I was like, I don't understand what is going on. And I should probably rewatch that documentary because I'd be really interested to see what I think of it now. But in the basketball scene, they're talking about how when no one's looking at the basketball, it has all these infinite possibilities about where it could be. And that's the thing with this energy, and with what they did in the observer effect experiment, the double slit experiment, is obviously when it's acting as a wave, it can go in all these different spots potentially. When it's acting as it goes to all the spots, but when it's acting as a particle, it has to choose one of them. It can only be in one spot, and it would choose that randomly. So that's what they're saying with the basketball is, where is this basketball? And when the observer looks, is that when it collapses into physical matter? And that absolutely blew my mind. And I've thought about it a lot. And I think that it's not like when I leave the room, everything in this room just collapses into energy. I don't think, anyway. I think because I've seen it, because I know that it's there, because I believe in it, that's collapsing the wave function. And I'm deciding that it's real and it's physical. What about with our world though? Like, this is getting pretty abstract, so I hope that you're with me. In our world, weren't things physical before we knew we were there? Well, there's two ways to think about this. In the Bible is super interesting because the Bible basically talks about the universe becoming aware of itself in this thing that they call God. And God becomes aware of itself and starts to create within the universe. So perhaps God or the universe or source or whatever you want to call it is this conscious awareness. Perhaps the universe became conscious and aware of itself, and so it started to collapse the wave functions, collapse the possibilities within it into physical things. The other idea is that, well, maybe things do collapse into energy when we don't see them. Who knows? Where do I want to go with this? If you've done like high school science, you've probably learnt about atoms. You've probably learnt about how water can change form. Water is a molecule. If it slows down, it becomes solid into ice. And if it speeds up, it turns into steam, a gas. That's showing us how energy can change forms and how molecules can change forms. If you zoom in on an atom, you might have seen the picture of an atom, and it has the protons and the electrons and the neutrons. It's got the electrons going around the outside. In the newer form of the atom, they say that the electrons, they're not just little balls circulating around the nucleus, but all of the positions around the nucleus are points of possibility, and it's actually impossible to tell where the electron would be. The other crazy thing that happens is that electrons pop in and out of existence, which is crazy and weird. So the idea that an atom is like a solid building block of the universe is actually not true. If you zoom in on an atom, apparently scientists get to the point where they just call it space-time foam because they don't know what they're looking at. Essentially, when you look so far into an atom, you realize that it's just energy. When you zoom out a little bit and you see the electrons going around the nucleus, the amount of electrons, the energy essentially, when that changes, when the amount of electrons changes around the nucleus, that changes the type of atom you're looking at. So number one, I think, is hydrogen. Yes, hydrogen. And then, iron has a different amount, calcium has a different amount. All of the things that make up our universe have a different amount of electrons going around them. If you zoomed into this chair, it's made up of atoms. If you zoomed into those atoms, you would see those electrons going around it, popping in and out of existence. And if you zoomed right in, apparently, I'm just sitting on space-time foam. Isn't that crazy? This is a crazy thing to think about. I really loved a book called, is it called The Joy of Living? By Yonggi Rinpoche. It's a really cool book about a monk who studied quantum physics, and he talks about the overlapping ideas between quantum physics and Buddhism. It is so cool. It blew my mind. Anyway, this is what they mean when they say everything is energy. Is I'm just sitting on energy right now. This is energy in one form. This is energy in another form. And the way this relates to manifestation is that when we're manifesting, we're just collapsing the wave function. We are taking one of the infinite possibilities in this world and collapsing it into a reality. One cool thing that really changed my mind is blew my mind, is when I heard someone say that when you collapse the wave function and you create something in your life, you can collapse it, take it out of matter, put it back into infinite possibility, and then turn it into something different. That's actually what I had to do when I wanted to manifest a new house, because I was so attached to the tiny little unit that I was living in, not from my heart, not because I loved it, but because I was so frustrated being there. And by being frustrated, I created all this resistance and attachment and reinforced that it was happening. This is what can happen with manifestation, is we recreate our current circumstances because we believe them to be real, because we're attached to them. We believe that we're going to wake up tomorrow and the same thing is going to be there. So what I had to do is start releasing my attachment to it and kind of breaking down the energetic attachments, the belief that it was there and that I was stuck there and that this is going to be my reality. I had to let go of that. A really cool manifesting technique that I teach is that you could go through your life. If you want a new house, for example, go through your house, touch the walls, but visualize them as the walls in your new house. So then you have this physical sensory belief that you are in this house, but in your mind you are in your dream house. There are a lot of studies that show that visualization is just as powerful as doing something in real life. They had people practice piano, and then they had people in their mind practice piano, and they found that the finger muscles strengthened equally in both. This originated with athletes. Athletes practice again and again whatever their sport is, whatever they do, and it actually physically strengthens their muscles, as well as taking them through the motions and making them a lot more likely to do well because they've done it 1,000 times already. Really cool stuff. So there's not much difference. There's no difference to your brain between visualizing something and actually doing it, and to your body as well. Super cool stuff. So if everything is energy and everything is possibility, how do you feel about manifesting now? When I fully got into this feeling that, wow, everything is possible, anything is possible, today anything can happen, I manifested so many things in the space of 48 hours. It was crazy, like unbelievable things, unlikely things. I found money everywhere. I decided to check on this Facebook group that I hadn't been in for a long time, and they told me, the first post there was about half price off of smoothie blenders, and it's exactly what I'd wanted, but I wouldn't have been able to afford them without that half price off. I found money, again, I found money everywhere because I just thought, today I'll find money everywhere. I found it on the ground. I found it in a bookshelf I was clearing out. I got that cliched check in the mail. Anything can happen in your life, but usually what happens is people recreate more of the same, or they believe that the thing they can have is like 2 steps ahead of where they are now, because we've been taught that we need to earn, we need to work for it, it needs to take time. That's not true. Become open to the possibilities and recognize that everything in our life, in the world, is just energy. You're not trying to manifest a house. You're not trying to manifest a car. You're not trying to manifest $1 million. It's just energy that you're trying to allow to flow through you and collapse the wave function right in front of you into your life. When you wake up in the morning, you're actually full of possibilities until you go into the brainwave state that is the one that we have throughout our daily life, which is beta wave state. When you're in dream wave state, when you're in meditation, or when you're just waking up, when you're in that super, super relaxed state, and when you're asleep, anything is possible. And you know from your dreams that that state allows anything to happen. So that's what I have to say about everything being energy. And I think it's a really magical way to look at the world, and opens you up to the possibilities and allows things to manifest super quickly. You'll be surprised. Try and embody that energy today of just everything's energy. You're just energy. The world's just energy. Nothing is big or hard to get. It's just energy, and the possibilities are infinite, and the ways that they can come to you are infinite. Anyway, I'll talk to you in the next episode. Bye.